So this is basically where we are at the moment, yeah. Thank you very much. I'm very honored to have a representative from Venezuela here who lives in Washington, D.C. Anders, this is really great that you are here. We all in Europe, we were looking very much for the situation in Venezuela, what's happening at the beginning of this exciting year 2026. And here at Fellinger Podcast, we always discuss the burning issues of our time. Here I have now 144,000 followers on X, and I will share this podcast as well on X. And also on YouTube and on Facebook. We are live now, and we will discuss the burning issues of our time here. Of course, freedom for the Venezuelans is our main concern, and I'm very happy that we have now, I think, Anders, you can introduce your exact role yourself, but you're one of the famous representatives working in Washington, D.C. for the cause of a free Venezuela. I'm very honored that you are here with us on this podcast, and maybe you can represent yourself and tell our audience who you are, what you're doing, and how we can achieve freedom for Venezuela in the year 2026. Please, you are welcome.
Thank you, Gunter, and I appreciate that you having me in your podcast because I know that you are doing a great job trying to make an alliance between the countries and the people of the world that defend the freedom, defend institutions, defend the democracy. So for me, it's an honor to stay here. And how I introduce myself, well, I can say that I'm a journalist because I have been a journalist for more than 9 years. I have been working as a correspondent in many places, Mexico, Venezuela, right now United States. But at the same time, I have been an activist for the democracy in my country. I have been working with Maria Corina Machado, that she's the laureate of the Nobel Peace right now, and she's in the city. When I mean the city, I say United States, Washington, D.C. She's right now here, and well, we are expected to handle a good transition. We do, well, obviously with the help of the actual government of the United States. And well, I can say that with all this work that we have been doing, well, for democracy and the freedom of my country, right now we have the most clear opportunity to practically clean and all the problems that have been in Venezuela for more than 28 years. And well, there's a long story that really I don't know how we can start, but I always repeat that it's very important to recognize how everything started in Venezuela because it could be a lesson not just for Latin America or for United States or any country in Europe, because that for every country in the world is a great lesson to learn.
Anders, tell me, how did you feel when you heard about the fall of the dictator Maduro? Because we in Europe, we were so happy when when this Maduro was taking out. This was a great, great achievement. Congratulations. And how did you feel when it happened?
Well, when it happened, well, the first moment I was surprised. I guess that for the Venezuelans, this moment gonna be something like I don't know, maybe I can compare this with the question that makes the Americans in the moment when the things happen or things that they didn't expect happen. For example, the moment when Donald Trump won by first time, or where you have been in the moment when this 9/11 happened. For the Americans, it's something like this. But right now, I guess that the thing that happened with Maduro 1 month ago is something that every single Venezuelan gonna be remembered forever. Because, well, for us, it's a justice action. It's the justice in action, even. Because well, we always was expecting that something happened where the justice appeared. For us, that's clear that Nicolas Maduro has been a narco trafficker, and all this group that is around him is a group that had relation with the narco traffic. But at the same time, he has been a tyrant, he has been a torturator, he has been a murderer, and well, for us everything that happened since that moment has been something that I can say, if you compare different transactions that I have in other countries, I can say that the things are working faster than I can imagine. are working faster, I can imagine. Just to tell you something very quick, yesterday, just 1 month and 1 day after the capture of Nicolas Maduro, one guy that was one guy that was released by a pardon of the government of Joe Biden that has a relation with the regime of Venezuela because he stole the money uh, that the government used to make the distribution of foods in the population. That guy with relations with the narco traffic was arrested in Caracas with the help of FBI again. So the things that are happening right now are things that maybe are not so quick as so many people want, because I know that so many people overall in Europe, they could think that maybe we are in something like the falling of the Berlin Wall. But really, the things that are happening right now are happening, I guess, very quick, and at the same time are happening in a very quiet way. Because the United States is interested in to have transfer of power that could be the most peaceful way. And I agree with this.
Anders, tell me, in Europe there's a big debate about the international lawfulness of this intervention of the Americans. Some people say it was not according to the international law. Some people like me are very much celebrating that Maduro is finally in prison because that's where he deserves to be. Where do you stand? Do you think that it was absolutely good to take Maduro out and decaptivate the Venezuelan narco regime?
Absolutely, I'm absolutely agreeing. Not just as a Venezuelan, I can talk as someone that had been covered international organizations, have United Nations, World Bank, and so many of these big um, multinational organizations that are located here in Washington and New York. I have been in these places, and I can say that it's pretty sad that they really lost the point of what they are doing for the humanity. That's the main point, because well, if really the International Court of Law that is in Netherlands, or if the United Nations really work in the way that the humanity expect of them, is well, if they work in the right way, situations where one country in specific took the action to make justice will be not necessary. This thing is happening because the international law is not working. There are not any respect for the law, for the same institutions that they say that they defend that. And I'm gonna say something specific about the International Court of Law, because you know that there are so many cases in over there about human rights violations in many places in the world. But in specific, in the case of Venezuela, they had one case that is called Venezuelan 2. This case was opened in the 2018, and they have in Caracas right now. They had one office that was opened 5 years ago for the general, yes, for the director of the court in Caracas. When he went to Caracas and traveled to this city 3 times, he meet Maduro, he meet the all the cronies that Maduro have in the courts, and at this time, 8 years, practically, let me see, yes, practically 8 years after they start this investigation, they didn't get any resolution at all. And at the same time, and I don't want to enter in more debates, but at the same time, you can notice that in cases like, for example, the Palestinian situation, the International Court of Law, they get a resolution just 5 months after the Israel action happened. So the only question that I had is how they have a very fast resolution in 6 months for Israel, But they have all the proof of all the violations that Maduro and the cronies committed from 8 years ago. They didn't find a resolution. Well, in that case, the information that I have is that they are acting as a political actors, not as a justice. That's the bad thing.
Anders, from the international situation, we had always Venezuela as one part of an axis of evil together with Iran, Russia, China. Now, after the fall of Maduro, is Venezuela still connected to Iran and Russia, or is it basically now broken out of this BRICS alliance? What's your assessment?
Well, I'm pretty sure that the broke with the BRICS alliance is something that will be happening. In this moment, the dictatorship, well, the people that is in charge and that are working together with the United States because they don't have any other option. Uh, they try to talk to the people, to the Venezuelan people. They try to say that, oh, they are still working with China, with Russia, with Iran. But when you notice what is really happening right now, it's not true. Even Bloomberg, they post, I guess that 1 week after the arrest of Maduro, they post that China sent a letter to the Venezuelan government and the United States authorities asking about what's going to be happening with the Chinese assessments in Venezuela and all this big debt that Venezuela have with China. That is not clear at all. Really, there are so many journalists and so many people that has researched that they try to figure it out what is the size of the real debt that Venezuela have with China, because China had been financing so many fractures, so many policies inside Venezuela. But one thing that is clear is that Venezuela is not paying. It's not paying in the right way to China, and China is not happy with that. But at the same time, at the same time, they have some doubts about, well, what will gonna be happening about how legal is what we did in Venezuela. They are wondering that thing right now. It's something that is in Bloomberg. Everybody can check that. In this case, and in the case of Russia, it's clear that the relation in the economy, in particular, is not so deep because we had the presence of many Russian companies in the field of the oil industry, but really it's not something significant because you know that Russia itself is a competitor of Venezuela. So Russia was not focused on that point. The focus of Russia was more in the intelligence and the presence of the military members into the Venezuelan army. That is something that I don't know what is going to be happening right now because just 4 days after the capture of Maduro, the director of CIA visited Caracas. The director that was behind that appeared even in the pictures where Trump, in the night where Maduro was arrested, Trump appeared in some pictures with Marco Rubio, Steve Miller. Well, in that picture appeared the director of CIA, and just 4 days after, he appeared in Caracas, and he had a meeting with the interim president and one of the commanders of the army of Venezuela. So that's pretty clear that they're gonna share a lot of information. So right now, the people of the Wagner and all this stuff, I guess that they don't have anything else to do in Venezuela, and I guess that they are more busier with everything that is happening in Ukraine. So Russia is not gonna be focused on that deal. And the case of Iran, well, the case of Iran, for me, is clear. There are not any way that Iran have any other influence in Venezuela. That's clear, and it's true that in Venezuela there really exist the factories of drums. Attack drums in Venezuela are factory. Yes, that's absolutely true. And Marco Rubio said this in the last intervention in the Congress. It's something that the United States had one eye on that.
Anders, okay, Venezuela is now broken out of BRICS. That's very good. But what about democracy and free elections? Because we were hoping that Venezuela will completely join the free world. There will be free elections, and of course that Mrs. Machado will be elected as the president of Venezuela. And actually, I'm still very positive that this is gonna be the result in 2026. But how are the preparations? How is the situation? When will she be able to return to Venezuela and to campaign for presidency? Because Delcy Rodriguez is not
Yeah.
elected. No, that was illegal elections in the last
Mm.
time. So I think it's absolutely necessary to have free and fair elections and hopefully to have a good result of that one. Do you see that scenario for 26?
Well, and for 26, I'm not sure because according to information that we receive of the same government of United States is confused in that point. But at the same time, I guess that it's not good to say. Well, it's not good. One scenario, sorry, when the United States may allow the elections so far in the time. So I guess that 2 years is too much. But at the same time, I guess that in this year there are some difficult issues, and in particular institutional things, because when you check the electoral system of Venezuela, when more accurate in the very you're very focused in the things that have relation with the registers of the people that vote. One of the main things that the Chavista regime made to avoid fair elections is that they practically have control of how many people vote. Even people, if Venezuela had more than 8 million people outside the country, and so many people that is not living anymore in the country, and the Venezuelans, for example, me, we're not allowed to vote. So, but one of the big tricks that they used to do in these fake elections is that they use all these people that pass away or are not living anymore in Venezuela. They use these people to vote in the elections. Medically, many people vote in the elections that are not living in Venezuela anymore. And in general, these people that they use to manipulate the results of the elections. So what I mean, we need to clean the institutions before do the elections because we don't want any other fraud. And there are another thing that we need to clean. Is the problem with the army. In Venezuela, we had a big problem with the army, and really, in particular, as someone that have been working with Maria Corina, I don't want the Maria Corina take the Miraflores Palace, and in a couple of months, we have the army trying to do a coup d'etat. So we need to be very careful with this point because for a long time we had been looking the opportunity that some institutional members of the army put down the games and support democracy. But the big trouble is that Hugo Chavez, he destroyed the army institution and was one of the main points of that dictatorship. When they destroyed the army and they used the army as a political tool, they practically made that the democracy could not flow in the right way because they used the army to attack the opposition, to put in jail leaders of opposition, to manipulate the elections at the same time. And at the same time, you can see and you can read what they said, and they say that they don't gonna allow any other government because they say that they are an army and they are Chavistas. It's not possible. It's not institutional. It's not democratic. So I'm pretty sure that we need a little time to clean this and make that the transition could be the less painful situation for everybody, even for these guys. But at the same time, we need to make sure that the democracy is going to be respected.
But Anders, you're optimistic about democracy returning to Venezuela as a result of that progress and of the process now, of the fall of Maduro.
Absolutely optimistic. I am working right now every day for this and working here with all the Venezuelans and so many people of Latin America. And, there are so many people of another country of Latin America that they support the democratization of Venezuela because the fall of Venezuela had been affected practically all the countries, not just the border countries, practically every country with the flow of immigration, uh, with the things of the narco traffic, with the things of this group of criminals that Maduro used to send to other places. So yes, we're working every day, and we are optimistic because this is an opportunity that we never had before. And honestly, I can say that in some points, Maria Corina, Maria Corina, she she's she is behind everything that happened because she was the leader in the election of 2024 that was the first step to the situation that we have right now. But at the same time, we have been lucky because right now we have Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, and he used to be a senator in Florida, and he knows very well the situation of Venezuelans, Cubans, and Nicaraguans. So I'm pretty sure that yes, the thing's gonna be well.
Andres, let me ask you about Cuba, because Cuba now doesn't have any oil anymore from Venezuela, and the supposed outcome would be also the end of the regime of the communists in Cuba. Do you think that is realistic and can also happen in 2026, the year of freedom?
I'm not sure if this year, but I guess that we're gonna see good steps this year. Because the thing that is clear and is evident is that Cuba, after the Soviet Union fall, Cuba they entered in the 90s in a big trouble with the economy because well the Soviet Union they didn't hold them anymore. So the only people, no, the only yes, the only people that was the resource for the support of that regime was Hugo Chavez when he arrived in the year 1998. Since this moment, the relation between Cuba and Venezuela had been deep. And Venezuela practically sent all the oil, and right now, we noticed that Cuba, as an island, they don't have resources to hold the energy, to hold the things of the gas stations and all this stuff, because apparently the energy that they consume in 80%, everything depends of the oil that Venezuela used to send them. And right now, well, that's true that Venezuela is not sending them any more oil. But at the same
Very
time,
good.
yes, that's very good. But at the same time, you notice something curious that happened, and that is that Mexico took the first position of the main the main country delivering oil to Cuba. And maybe you can and you and so many people that is watching this podcast could have the question, why Mexico? Why Mexico appear in this story? Well, uh, well, this is a long story about the left-wing Latin American organizations. Because the actual president of Mexico, she is member of one organization that is called Forum of Sao Paulo. Yeah, yes, you can browse this. Everybody can browse this. Forum of Sao Paulo is one organization of left-wing parties of all Latin America that was founded in 1990, just 1 month or something like that. No, just 1 year after the fall of the Soviet Union. It happened in Sao Paulo, and the main host was Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva,
Oh,
the actual president of Brazil, who is
I really don't
exactly
like him.
exactly exactly it's happening in that moment. And well, she is member of this organization. All the Chavistas parties are member of this organization, and practically all this group that 15 years ago used to be called the socialism of the 21st century. That was one movement founded by Hugo Chavez, with so many countries that were members of this Bolivarian forum that Hugo Chavez used to have. Every one of them were member of the Forum of Sao Paulo. She is member. She's member, and she in that time she used to be very active in that team, and due to that she support the Cuban regime. And due to that, Pemex, that is the company of oil of Mexico, practically did the same that the oil company of Venezuela of send oil, thousands of barrels, without any payment in exchange, just for ideological support.
Stealing it basically from the Venezuelan people and transporting it to their communist socialist friends in other parts.
Exactly. Just for ideological support, because the Cubans they always said, or the regime of Cuba said always, that they send in exchange doctors, educators, advisors, things like this. But really, when you check all the advisors and doctors and all these people that they have in that programs, they are living in in something that so many human rights people said that is a modern slavery. Because, for example, in Venezuela, one Cuban doctor received a payment that is higher than the payment of the Venezuelan doctors. I mean, one Cuban doctor in one moment 15 years ago used to receive $2,000 monthly of payment. That's at 1%, so there we are talking about, I'm not sure if 40% of these payments goes directly to the government budget of Cuba, and the rest is the money that they receive. So the government of Cuba use people, and practically they take half of the money, but a quarter of the money that they receive to work. So so many people is right, but they say that it's even a slavery situation. These people that don't have any other option, they are sending to another countries, and they need to pay part of their money to the government. And if they escape, that is happening a lot of Venezuela, that many Cubans escape, well, the government retain all the money, so they don't receive anything else. So that's the situation that happened. So that's a relation between Cuba and Mexico. Mexico received these doctors and make bad. They send oil for practically nothing to Cuba.
Anders, tell me about Nicaragua, because that's also some country which the European left has always supported, and they claim that this is the paradise on earth, and they are also like connected, obviously, with Venezuela in the past, I guess. Yeah. So what's the situation?
Wow, the case of
You're
Nicaragua is
optimistic
something.
that it will also change?
Well, I guess that I'm optimistic too, because the government of the United States had been very tough with them. But at the same time, I noticed that Marco Rubio, they had something like a plan about that thing. And even there one innovation that I'm gonna share with you, Gunter, in any moment, of Maria Corina Machado, where she said that yes, first is Venezuela, next is Cuba, and after Cuba is Nicaragua, because Nicaragua is getting along there. And at the same time, one information that I received is that the Nicaraguan diplomatics, just 2 days after the arrest of Maduro, they sent one delegation of 40 members to Washington D.C. We don't know why they sent practically all the members of the foreign policies to Washington D.C. after the Maduro arrest. Thus, it's pretty clear that they try to make a deal. Everybody's trying to making a deal with the United States right now. And the main deal that they want as dictators, it's stability, is to retain the power. But for us, it's pretty clear that the actual government of the United States is not playing games with them. Because for something that is something like a strategic MFR security plan that had this administration, these dictators must be out. And well, for me, the signs are clear, and I need to say something else. I really appreciate all the support of the Nicaraguans, because I know that I'm gonna share this with so many Nicaraguans, this podcast. I receive a lot of support of the Nicaraguans here in Washington D.C., and I really appreciate this because they are amazing people and they really had a great compromise. And I'm fighting for your freedom too. To see.
Thanks a lot. I'm also supporting freedom for Nicaragua, freedom for Cuba, freedom for the Venezuelans, and it seems to happen now. Let me ask you, what kind of government is Mrs. Conchado of Maria Conchado? What is her platform? What will be the Venezuela according to her political platform? Will it be like a social democrat, Christian democrat? Will it be like Millet? What is the vision of transformation of that country, which is theoretically so rich and practically so desperately poor? And we
Mhm.
feel with the Venezuelan people in Europe. We want to have them rich and successful, prosperous, secure. So we want to know what kind of political platform she will offer to the people of Venezuela once she can run for the elections under free and fair conditions.
Well, you know that I have been in the party of Maria Corina for more than 10 years. And we practically are very proud to say that we are the only libertarian point of view party in the Venezuelan political spectrum. We support the free markets, we support the freedom of the individual people, we support the creation of citizens. And I know that you're too, Hunter. I know you too. That we support all these things. And well, we had a plan that, well, let me explain you the name of the plan because it's very meaningful for us. When Columbus he arrived to America in the third trip, he reached Venezuela in the last trip to America. And when he was well in the front of the Venezuelan now Venezuelan shores, he said, and oh, he wrote this in the letters that this place is the graceful land, graceful land. Yeah, I'm translating this to English, but this the well, practically he said that to be something like the paradise on the land because he noticed that it was a jungle full of fruit, animals, and all this thing that very colorful stuff. Our plan is this. That's the name of our plan of government. Venezuela, Tierra de Gracia, is a graceful land because we consider that the Venezuela is many people said that Venezuela is rich because the resources. We said that resources the resources don't mean anything if we don't have rich people, if we don't have rich citizens. So we could have all these resources, but we really need that the people to be the people that make Venezuela wealthy. So we're well in our plan. The opening of the Venezuelan market of the energy market for the private industry is key point. We want to eliminate the Venezuelan oil monopoly because there's not any point in this company that has been used not just for the Chavism, no, I'm talking about a long time ago because this company was made in 1977. So for a long time, this company has been as a monopoly of the oil industry in Venezuela, but practically for a long time has been in red numbers. And everything is about this company has been there because, well, because political interest, because any political speech about nationalistic stuff that really doesn't mean anything for the real people on the street. So due to that, well, we're gonna be opening Venezuela for the big financing stuff. And in so many things, I can say that, well, Maria Corina and Javier Milei have so many things in common. So many things in common in the economy point. But at the same time, from the point of view about social and civic rights, well, Maria Corina is very liberal. We had many plans, even to recognize that the people that well, that the people that is gay, we recognize so many things about the team. We recognize the freedom of the people. Well, to the well, to well, she considered even the legalization of marijuana for the consumer, all this stuff. So at the same time, we're pretty liberal on so many point of view. Obviously, we need to adapt so many things to the context that we had in Venezuela, but we're gonna be we have more freedom than before. We are pretty sure.
Anders, that's a very good plan, and also because a lot of people in the internet, in X, where we met actually on the Twitter account, it is like this that many people compare Poland in 2000, I think, with Venezuela. So that's very popular comparison because Poland was about same level of wealth, and then Poland has joined the European Union, reformed itself, joined NATO, and made all these free market reforms, and it's now much more successful than Venezuela, who chose socialism and went down completely, despite all its oil resources. And so the question is, will Mrs. Machado come to Poland once on the invitation of the Prime Minister Tusk and study Poland and then transform Venezuela like Poland was transformed with low taxes, market reforms, liberalization, privatization, and be very successful? I think it would be wonderful to turn Venezuela into the Poland of the South America and be similar successful like Poland is now for 25 successful years.
I saw that metrics that you're talking about. There's so many people was talking about a couple of weeks ago, and that's incredible. And so many cases, I have been working in the opportunity that we need to check not just Poland. I'm talking about the Baltic countries. Overall, the case of Estonia for me is something that is very impressive because Estonia even had everything against them, and they are then very strong, small and strong. They are practically they put the border line against Russia. That's incredible what they're doing over there, and they have very few resources to do all the things that they need right now. And I always, when I talk to the members of my party, I always said, put an eye on Estonia because Estonia is very impressive. Venezuela and the economy of the future for any country need to be very focused on the equal connection of all the country. I'm talking about the internet for everybody and all this stuff because I got that is very important. At the same time, I need to say that Maria Corina and Bento Venezuela have been behind the visit of Les Walesa. Walesa, that he was the first president of Poland. He visited Venezuela in, let me see, it was in, no, in 2015. And this visit was organized by Maria Corina. So, yes, we're going to have a very rich relation with the Poland soon.
That's very good. Andres, let me ask you, because we recently, and that was very dramatic because of the pressure we are under from Putin of the war and of Trump and this protectionism, after 30 years we concluded an agreement with European Union with the Mercosur countries. This was historic. It was very difficult, and the French were complicated as always, and it was, but it was fantastic. We really loved it. And I know that Venezuela is an observer member or wanted to once be in Mercosur, to my knowledge. And that's the question. Are you ready for a free trade agreement with the European Union, or will you join the EU-Mercosur free trade agreement once you are a fully free country? What's exactly the trade relations we can have in the future with a free and democratic Venezuela? Because we love you, we want to be close to you, and we want to work together with you to be part of the free world. That's our wish, and that would be the framework under which we could work together, this free trade agreement, which we just concluded with Mercosur.
Well, in the case of Mercosur, there are so many things that I need to say because, Venezuela right now is a member that is suspended because the democratic rights of Venezuela were not respected. So members of Mercosur suspend Venezuela, I guess that 8 years ago. And, in this case, I guess that we had an opportunity to return to Mercosur. This is the first thing. I guess that the new government is going to return to Mercosur because obviously that the interim government is not interested in that. The another thing is that the Mercosur they had a lot of troubles into the continent because so for us it's very clear that there are so many people in the in the agro industry in Europe that are not interested in open the markets because they want to, they are protectionists. They don't want to have competence. That's true. But the big trouble that they had Mercosur in Latin America are the states itself. And I need to quote Javier Milei in this point because he said something that is absolutely right. He said that the big problem of the Mercosur in Latin America is that Mercosur has been working in um, in deals where just the governments make the deals, but not the individual entrepreneur, not the individual companies have their real right to make to make deals between them, and that's true. When you check how works Mercosur, practically so many countries they work with special licenses that allow some specific companies. For example, you had a company in Brazil, they had one company in Argentina, and as a government, I allow who's gonna make the deal with Brazil and vice versa. It's not free exchange. It's not an open market itself. That's the thing that is absolutely right about what Milei said about Mercosur. Because if we really want to have an open market in our continent, we need to eliminate all these tariffs that exist. And one of the main points is that if you check Uruguay, Uruguay is the country with more um, tariff in the continent, but not just in the continent, in the world. It's one of the most protectionist markets in the world. If you check the levels of tariff that Uruguay have, practically Uruguay is living in a bubble. So it's very hard to have one economic alliance in that point of view. So we need to discuss so many things because if Mercosur is not working as a real free exchange organization, well, I guess that is fair that we discuss another kind of alternatives. I guess that the main alternative, and I guess that many people don't know this in the world right now, because I was talking about this thing with Latin American people that they can remember this, but in the year 2002, George Bush, yes, it was 2002, no, was 2000, 2000, yes, 2002, George Bush,
2002, yeah.
yes, he went to the America Summit that was made in Argentina, and he offered one free commerce area for all the continents, from Canada to Argentina. But who was the main crony there? Hugo Chavez and the Sao Paulo Forum presidents that they say no. And that's the thing. For due to that, I always go to the same point. The Forum of Sao Paulo, all these left-wing parties around the continent have been very bad for our countries in general. And I'm pretty sure that the problem with the Mercosur in part is this.
I think also Mr. Lula is a big problem in Brazil. He has a lot of socialist friends and a lot of socialist ideas, and I hope there will be elections soon, and he will lose as well the elections there. What's your guess in Brazil?
Right now, all the numbers said that in Brazil the things are not good for Lula, and even he's kind of desesperated for well, he's desesperated the decision that he took to well to keep on the keep running. So that means that there are not any other leadership in the left wing side that could replace him, and that's pretty clear because don't forget that the moment when the Bolsonaro won the election was because Lula was in jail and he put one former minister. I don't remember the name of him, but I know him. But I don't remember well. He put that guy as a candidate, and well, practically they opened the opportunity for Bolsonaro. Right now, wow, I think that is not good for him. So it's highly possible that the son of Bolsonaro could have a chance now.
Anders, what is the situation, the cooperation with the European Union? It's possible to work what's closer together between Venezuela and the European Union in the future. I think that's a very good prospect, and to work for freedom globally once Venezuela is completely free.
Well, I guess that the relation between Europe and Venezuela has been very deep for a long time. The only bad thing that is happening in this relation is that the European foreign policy in respect to Latin American is had a deep influence of Spain. And the government of Spain right now is not a government that is friend of democracy in Venezuela. That's pretty sad, but we need to say that because the government of Pedro Sanchez said that. Well, first he said that um, the situation with Maduro, he said that it was unlawful. But at the same time, he didn't make anything all this time to declare that the regime of Venezuela had been violating human rights, even the human rights of Spain, people from Spain that had been detained in Venezuela and had been tortured in Venezuela. So apparently he didn't take care about that too. And in Spain right now, there are a big scandal, Gunter, a big scandal in Spain because members of the government of Pedro Sanchez that have been pointed back corruption, they had a deep relation with Delcy Rodriguez. Even
No.
one of the former
A kind of
ministers.
socialist link between Spain, socialist Spain and socialist Venezuela.
Yes,
Rodriguez
yes,
Sanchez, a big
absolutely.
scandal. We don't
It's a
know so
big
much in
scandal.
Austria and in
I'm
Europe
gonna say,
about it, but
I'm gonna
Spain
say
is
you that.
really a difficult country. Explain me.
Yes, it's a complicated thing. You know that I guess that was 8 years ago, or no, wasn't no, about 5 years ago. One, you know that Delcy Rodriguez, she have a ban in the European Union to travel to the European Union. She had a ban, but the problem is that she went to Spain. She stopped the airplane in Madrid, and apparently she walked into the airport of Madrid and she had a meeting with Avalos, with the former minister Avalos. Avalos is a minister that right now is pointed at corruption. Even he is on the court right now because apparently Avalos had a meeting with her, and in this meeting that was organized by the former president of Spain, Jose Luis Rodriguez Zapatero, that is the main advisor of Nicolas Maduro and right now of Delcy Rodriguez. This guy right now, Avalos, he apparently he had a deal where apparently the government of Spain received money of Venezuelan regime. And in exchange, the Spain government in the pandemic times, they approved an amount of, I guess that 50 million euros to support one airline called Plus Ultra. That when you check this airline that nobody knows, is an airline with Venezuelan money. So the government of Spain make a deal in the pandemic times to support one company with a relation with the Venezuelan regime. Really, it's a company that in the market is very small and non-exist. This is the case plus ultra, and everybody in Spain is talking about it because that means that their relation between the regime of Maduro and the Pedro Sanchez government is something that really exists. And Delcy Rodriguez is the main character in all this story.
That is something I didn't know, and of course, I suppose that Sanchez is very deeply into that business because he has a tradition of so he's the boss of the European Socialist. I think you know that, yeah. And we hope really that he will be replaced by the reform government of the Partido Popular. That would be absolutely necessary, and then the relation with Latin America and with Venezuela, which will be much better again.
Yes, well, how I told you, the only thing that happened with the European Union is the big role that had Spain, and the big problem is the government of Pedro Sanchez that really. There's so many things that maybe we can talk in another podcast because Spain itself is Spain and Venezuela is a hot topic. It's a really hot topic. Yeah, really,
Very
we
good.
don't have enough hours to talk about that thing. Really.
No, We agreed for 50 minutes. I say thank you very much. We in Europe stand with the people and freedom for Venezuela. It's really very good that now you have the first step because the fall of Maduro was something unique and great. And we hope it's now what is happening is full democratization of Venezuela and welcome to the free world and also that you have the freedom which you deserve. I always say freedom is universal, freedom is indivisible, and the Venezuelans have the same freedom deserved like we in Europe. And we stand with you in Venezuela for these dramatic changes at the beginning of the year. And I hope that they are just the beginning of the democratic transition towards a free market economy and a full partner of the European Union. And that will be what we want to achieve. And Anders, I want to thank you for your time here. And thank you also for the first podcast we did together. And I think Venezuela will be such an important topic and the whole end of socialism in South America as well, in Cuba, in Nicaragua, and hopefully in Brazil as well, that we can stay in touch and make a regular update for our European and global audience in order to know exactly what's going on, because you are very well informed, and hopefully that you all will live in freedom and transformation towards the same living standard what we have seen in Eastern Europe in the last 20 years, and with the democratization, with the freedom, is now possible as well for Venezuela, Nicaragua, Cuba, and the other victims of socialism in Latin America, something which we have exported to you, and we are very sorry. This is a failed ideology, and it is from Europe which exported to Latin America, and it has done so much damage to the Venezuelans, to the Cubans, to the Nicaraguans, and many other people. And now I think it's time that this will fall and freedom will come fully to the whole of the Americas. And please stay with us as well when it comes to freedom in Ukraine, in Kosovo. We need your support in the future because we have these common enemies, Russia, Iran, and China, North Korea, and we want you as our allies, as our friends, as our partners, together for security, freedom, prosperity, together with the Venezuelan people.
That's true, and I congratulate for all this initiative that you have, because you really understand what is the real fight that we need to have around the world. And well, I need to say thank you. I guess that is the first podcast, but not the last. So let's gonna be in touch and see. Well, saludos Venezuela.
Freedom from Austria to Venezuela and America. Thanks a lot. All the best.
Thanks a lot.